Duelists, it is I, Hellgear, and this is my Madolche deck profile. Since its recent support in Infinite Forbidden, this deck has gotten a very nice going first board. So whether you know this is Diabetes Turbo or your MCO 40 and refer to this deck as the Candy Treats, this fun Earth archetype puzzle piece deck is actually something that you should try for a rogue option in today's metagame. But I'll let you tell me what you think of my version of this build in the comments section below. But for now, let's count the cards. We begin our sweet deck of puzzle place pieces with Big Sass Princess. Nei-chan is always a one of, and all your Madolche monsters mainly have the effect where if they would be destroyed and sent to the graveyard, they're shuffled back into the deck instead. You only need one Nei-chan. Big Sis Sass isn't all that important. Little Sis Sass, on the other hand, is more important, which is why she's a triple fudge ripple. It's a triple fudge ripple. If you have no monsters in grave, you can special summon her from the hand. And on special summon, she can Stratos a different Madolche monster from hand or deck, but also lowers its level by 1, which works well when you want to get out the Big Sass. Using her effect does lock your special summons to Madolche monsters, but that only matters on your first move. Little Trooper is having a good time in the background here. 3 Madolche! This is the N-archetype Rhoda on normal summon. Or flip summon. 3 copies of Angeli. She is this archetype's version of Lone Fire Blossom. Parahooters. Hootcake can banish a Madolche engrave to Stratos one Madolche from your deck. Usually, you're going to be pulling out our Mess and Gelato, which needs a face-up Beast Madolche to activate his effect anyway. Not a once per turn. Learn to add a Madolche spell or trap on special summon. So if you loop your 2 Mess and Gelatos a lot, you'll be able to get them down on Easy Street. Finally, we have 2 Butler-esque, who on normal summon is a field spell Rhoda. So he's essentially the archetype's terraforming as we roll into the spells. Speaking of field action, 2 copies of the Chateau. The 500 attack point boost is nice. The 500 attack point boost is nice, but on activation, it shuffles all of your Madolche monsters in grave back into the decks, and that's the important part. 1 Secret Village. Both Butler-esque and Madolche are spellcaster monsters, so getting one of them on your end board won't be too big of an issue to go into Secret Village lock on your opponent. Now, I personally run 2 Madolche Salon. Most duelists will run 1 of this. This is an additional Madolche normal summon for your turn. If other Madolche cards you control or in your graveyard are added to hand or shuffled into the deck by a card effect, you can set a Madolche spell or trap card once per turn. Ticket is one of those cards that you will like to set off of this effect. Which lets you wonderfully on once per turn add a Madolche card from deck to hand if Madolche cards are added back from field or grave. But if you control a fairy Madolche monster, you can summon them instead. I run the traps one each, and they work in similar ways. Both of them are one effects a turn of their two effects. And they both require you using a Madolche monster, preferably one that you control. And then, in Dessert's case, you target it and an effect monster on the field, bouncing them both and then special summoning a Madolche monster from deck or extra deck whose attack is equal to or lower than the attack of the two bounced monsters. Promenade, on the other hand, targets a face-up card on the field your opponent controls. Again, you bounce your Madolche monster, but you negate the face-up card for the rest of the turn. They each also share the secondary effect of attaching to Xyz materials. Promenade, you banish from the graveyard. One you banish from the graveyard to attach to an Xyz monster. The other, you bounce a Madolche from grave to attach a Madolche monster from hand to an Xyz Madolche monster you control. This wraps up the main engine of Diabetes Turbo. Next up is the Vernisylph engine. I play 2 copies of Molly. Yes, the duck reminds me of Molly from Animal Crossing. 1 Wanda, 1 Cosmo, and of course, 1 Winnie the Pooh. The effect on these guys that matters is their discard effect, where you discard themselves and a Vernisylph card or a monster for cost to activate their unique effects. Then you special summon an earth monster from grave. Molly the duck here is a rota for Vernisylph, for an earth fairy monster. Wanda is a rota for Vernisylph cards. Cosmo sends an earth monster that can be normal summon or set from deck to grave, so he's essentially Armageddon Knight. And Winnie the Pooh gives you a fresh draw. Remember, after using that once per turn effect, you bring back an earth from the grave, which means that these cards break even. Some of you may not like to play Winnie the Pooh for your draw power, but you can also use a copy of Pot for that particular spot. The flex spot in the deck, I got 2 copies of Dinah Wrestler Pankratops. I'm only using Hanky Panky for this simply because in my original build, these 2 copies of Hanky Panky were actually 2 copies of Cash Terra Fenrir. But since Cash Terra Fenrir is $25 a copy, Hanky Panky makes a nice budget option for duelists. The rest of the engine, you already know how Call by the Grave works. It's as simple as that. I have 2 trap holes, 1 Gravedigger, 1 Adhesion. These trap holes are mainly in the deck because Trap Tricks Rafflesia is one of the cards in the extra deck that lets you set a trap hole. Now, you don't have to use Adhesion trap hole. You can use another trap hole that you like. Network trap hole is a good one for Malice. Gravedigger's trap hole kind of acts like a second Call by the Grave and even burns your opponent for 2 racks. Wrapping up the main deck are my hand traps of choice. 2 Imperm and of course 3 Heralds of Orange Light. Since the Heralds are light attribute, this is the only monster you won't be able to use if you go through the Vernisylph cards. So keep that in mind as you roll through your Vernisylph plays. Now then, in addition to the Trap Tricks Rafflesia for the extra deck, we have big cess in her chocolate dress. She has two effects. Once per turn, you can bounce a Madolche card from grave to the deck. Shuffle a Madolche card from grave to deck. And while she has the regular version of cess, when the Madolche cards are shuffled from grave to deck, you can detach from the chocolate dress and Stratos a Madolche monster from from deck in face-up attack or face-down defense. I need to explain the effects of this card because all you Zoomers and Alphas don't quite realize that the first effect, which is the shuffle from the graveyard, is once per turn, but the detach to Stratos is not once per turn. It is only limited to the effect of having the regular pudding cess. So as long as your chocolate dress has the regular pudding cess on it as material, you can use this for as much as you want. Also, you're not really ever going to hard exceed summon into pudding cess's chocolate dress. You rank up exceeds change into it. One of the ways to rank up exceeds change into it are from Glass Souffle. Glass Souffle can detach a material from quick effect speed, and make one other Madolche monster on the field immune to card effects. She also has a shuffle back feature on Sin, which works very, very well. 2 copies of the Queen because, you need 2 queens in the game of chess. Detach a material from the Queen, shuffle up to 2 Madolche cards from your grave into the deck, and bounce that same number of cards off your opponent's field. You can rank up exceeds change into her updated form, which allows you to do the base form's effect at quick effect speed. So you can do it on your opponent's turn. And she dips into the extra deck if she's sent to the grave. Two fresh Sistart. Alright. This is our Link monster that protects the Madolche spell and trap back row. And you can send back row. And you can keep it alive by shuffling a Madolche monster from your graveyard if it would be destroyed. Then comes the pets. 2 copies of the Link 3 Mini Meow Karoon. It is a archetype Rhoda on Link Summon, which is a very useful thing because it can get you any of your Madolche cards on Link. Usually you link this and another card off of Sistart because you need at least 1 Madolche monster for one of its 3 Link materials. You can target a monster in your graveyard, special summon a Madolche monster from your hand, and if you do, shuffle the targeted monster into the deck. But you're locked into Madolche monster effects for the rest of the turn, which is not a big deal. When you're not locked into Madolche monsters or Madolche effects, 1 Earth Asa to get back some of your Earth arsenal. With the exception of the Orange Herald, the whole deck is Earth attribute. Or you can always steal somebody's Ghost Bell. Now the last 2 spots in Madolche's extra deck are usually going to be Zeus and Typhon. I, on the other hand, am rocking Rock Candy in the form of the G-Golems. Yes, that's right. The Earth Ignis's bigger Link monsters, I do play them as hard candy in the main deck, usually on turn 3, aka the second move. Both of them share the effect that force your opponent to attack into them. The one thing that matters with Invalid Dolmen, the Link 3, is that it protects co-linked cards from effects of your opponents. Usually when you do co-link it, you have many Meowcaroons, and you co-link Dolmen to the bottom arrow of the cats. The main reason why I play the Invalid Dolmen is when it dies, it shuts off your opponent's cards for the rest of the turn. The Link 4, on the other hand, has a once per battle quick effect where you can pitch an earth monster from your hand to the grave at the start of battle, before damage count. The 200 attack point nerf is not why you do this. You do this to shut off the battling opponent's monster's effects for the rest of the turn. It can even negate effects that target your Link monsters once per turn. Thank you guys so much for watching my interesting take on the Madolche deck profile. Give this fun deck a try if you haven't already. Again, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. But for now, I take my cards to the box because I am done. Bye-bye, everybody.